This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. In what was likely the most devastating single day up to this point in the public impeachment inquiry hearings, Gordon Sondland, the U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, appeared before the House Intelligence Committee yesterday and followed through on what he referred to as both his legal and moral obligation to tell the truth, despite being instructed not to cooperate by both Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo. And he laid down some damaging details which will undoubtedly be a matter of understanding of anyone with even the scantest scintilla of common sense, but damaging details that were not necessarily known to the degree we should know them, especially when making decisions about a matter as weighty and momentous as the impeachment and removal of an elected president of the United States. For one, we finally heard it said out loud by Donald Trump's own hand-picked, Senate-confirmed Ambassador Gordon Sondland that he was working with Donald Trump's full-time personal attorney and part-time Dracula impersonator, Rudy Giuliani, at the express direction of Donald Trump.
Secretary Perry, Ambassador Volker, and I worked with Mr. Rudy Giuliani on Ukraine matters at the express direction of the President of the United States. We did not want to work with Mr. Giuliani. Simply put, we were playing the hand we were dealt. We all understood that if we refused to work with Mr. Giuliani, we would lose a very important opportunity to cement relations between the United States and Ukraine. So we followed the president's orders.
They followed the president's orders. So no matter how much the Republicans try to distract from the point of all of this, no matter how much they try to confuse the American people, no matter how much they perform their embarrassing little loyalty dance for Donald Trump on live television for the world to see, the fact remains that Donald Trump's own guy says that he did what he did at the express direction of Donald Trump. The other thing that Sondland testified under oath to was that there was a quid pro quo involving the demands for these investigations that would personally benefit Donald Trump politically and effectively involve Ukraine's interference in our upcoming 2020 presidential elections.
Mr. Giuliani's requests were a quid pro quo for arranging a White House visit for President Zelensky. Mr. Giuliani demanded that Ukraine make a public statement announcing the investigations of the 2016 election DNC server and Burisma. Mr. Giuliani was expressing the desires of the President of the United States, and we knew these investigations were important to the President.
Now, I'm going to repeat that because it is unbelievably important and bears repeating. Rudy Giuliani's requests were a quid pro quo. Rudy Giuliani, who in addition to Sondland and the others, was acting at the direction of Donald Trump, was expressing the desires of the President of the United States, and we knew these investigations were important to the President. And what do these Republican sycophants have to say about these damning details? What do they have to say? But the whistleblower, though. Ugh. They've got nothing. They've spent not a single minute mounting a defense of Donald Trump's actions and behavior. They've instead spent every moment whining about process, complaining about not being able to illegally out and endanger the life of the whistleblower, and trying to promote bizarre conspiracy theories. The other piece of information that was revealed by the same guy who paid $1 million for a ticket to Donald Trump's inauguration was that everyone was either involved in or knew about what was going on with this scandal while it was going on. From Vice President Mike Pence to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Secretary of Energy Rick Perry, National Security Advisor John Bolton, White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, and several other aides.
We kept the leadership of the State Department and the NSC informed of our activities, and that included communications with Secretary of State Pompeo, his counselor Ulrich Brechtbull, his executive secretary Lisa Kenna, and also communications with Ambassador Bolton, Dr. Hill, Mr. Morrison, and their staff at the NSC. They knew what we were doing and why. And even as late as September 24th of this year, Secretary Pompeo was directing Kurt Volker to speak with Mr. Giuliani. In a WhatsApp message, Kurt Volker told me in part, spoke with Rudy per guidance from S. S is the State Department's official designator for the Secretary. Spoke with Rudy per guidance from S.
And despite the fact that the White House, at the direction of Donald Trump, and the Department of State, at the direction of Mike Pompeo, they're stonewalling and not allowing document production related to legal subpoenas in this matter, Gordon Sondland read from an email and explained who was on the distribution list. An email which proves that all of these people that I just mentioned are involved with, or at the very least aware of what was going on.
Within my State Department emails, there is a July 19th email. This email was sent to Secretary Pompeo, Secretary Perry, Brian McCormick, who is Secretary Perry's Chief of Staff at the time, Ms. Kenna, who is the Executive Secretariat for Secretary Pompeo, Chief of Staff Mulvaney, and Mr. Mulvaney's Senior Advisor, Rob Blair. A lot of senior officials. Here is my exact quote from that email. I talked to Zelensky just now. He is prepared to receive POTUS's call. We'll assure him that he intends to run a fully transparent investigation and will turn over every stone. He would greatly appreciate a call prior to Sunday so that he can put out some media about a friendly and productive call, no details, prior to Ukraine election on Sunday. Chief of Staff Mulvaney responded, I asked the NSC to set it up for tomorrow. Everyone was in the loop. It was no secret. Everyone was informed via email on July 19th, days before the presidential call. As I communicated to the team, I told President Zelensky in advance that assurances to run a fully transparent investigation and turn over every stone were necessary in his call with President Trump.
It should concern each and every citizen who believes that our government and those who work in our government should be working in the interest of the American people, and not in some clandestine scheme to use taxpayer dollars as an extortion tool to personally benefit Donald Trump. Each and every one of those officials listed, if they haven't already, and there have been a few, should tender their resignations immediately, and try not to let the door hit them on the ass on the way out. And then finally, if you're curious what Donald Trump had to say about the testimony yesterday of the man who donated $1 million to his inauguration, the same man who he himself handpicked and nominated to the high position of U.S. Ambassador to the European Union. Well, like he did with Michael Cohen and Steve Bannon and Paul Manafort and so many others, he acted like he doesn't really even know the guy.
I don't know him very well. I have not spoken to him much. This is not a man I know well. Seems like a nice guy, though. But I don't know him well. He was with other candidates. He actually supported other candidates. Not me. Came in late.
Come on, man. Just because you're historically stupid doesn't mean the rest of us are. Donald Trump denying how well he knows someone or whether he knows them at all is a part of a familiar pattern for him. In fact, he did that very thing just this week with several other people, as though him not knowing them means that they're not telling the truth, or as though they don't know how they know the things they know. He denied knowing Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, even though he's been photographed with them many, many times in several private events. His own ambassador, Bill Taylor, his former Ukraine ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch, Jennifer Williams, and Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. It's stupidity, weakness, and desperation. And that is all that it is. Look, that which was revealed yesterday is sure to move the needle with the American people, even if it's only a little bit. But progress, even little by little, is still progress. And as I've talked about before, we need the American people to wake up to the impeachable crimes and abuses of power of Donald Trump. Because once the American people rise up and demand something be done about all of this, the Senate, who ultimately have votes in the trial that will take place in their chamber of the Capitol, will be persuaded to do the right thing and to put our country ahead of their dying political party.